Good morning and welcome to the April 10th, 2017 workshop of the Orlando City Council. We have decided to have Mike Carroll present at each workshop for the rest of the year. So he is in his second one. I think it was our last meeting, he presented on our residential recycling, and there's a lot of people that are in apartments or condos or office buildings that also want to recycle. Right now we don't have a requirement for recycling in commercial buildings, so Mike has a proposal that he wants to share with us this morning. Mike?
Thank you, Mayor, Commissioners. Good morning. You really don't have to take the mayor up on that every presentation thing. The city's, as you know, very committed to sustainable practices and protecting our environment to benefit future generations. A key component of that commitment is recycling. Two really simple reasons. It reduces the amount of waste sent to landfills, and it reduces the energy and raw material needed to produce the products. Why commercial and multifamily recycling? Well, I think you all know from talking to your constituents how many customers live in multifamily housing of some kind or another. But most of the residents who live in multifamily or work in office buildings want the opportunity to recycle. The mayor often says he can't go to Publix without getting asked about something. I can't go anywhere and not get asked by an apartment or a condominium resident or somebody from an office who says, I want to recycle, but I can't where I live or work. This will help the city reach our waste diversion goals. We've got one in our GreenWorks action plan to try to be zero waste landfill by 2040. It's a long ways off, but it's also a very big goal. Many customers and managers want to recycle, but they need assistance to make it work. The main goal is to ensure that all tenants have the opportunity to recycle where they live or work. I'll try not to wear that word out, but it's the essential idea behind this. We want to obtain environmental and sustainability benefits of recycling and having it grow. Recycling costs less than garbage. If I liked rubber chicken dinners, I would never have to buy a lunch or a dinner by going to talk to people who don't know this. The percentage of our business and apartment managers who think it costs more to recycle because they might write a check to a recycle company and a check to the garbage company is surprising. But recycling can result in a discount on the total waste collection costs. Recycling is about 50% cheaper than garbage to collect because there's little or no disposal cost for recycled materials. The truck that picks them up costs the same, the driver that picks them up costs the same, the fuel costs the same, but then when you drive it to a sorting center, they don't charge anything now, in some places a little bit, but way less than the $33.60 a ton for garbage. Most businesses can save between 10 and 30% on their monthly waste bill. We'll have a few illustrations on how that works. Waste, like electricity, is considered virtually a fixed cost in most businesses, and I would be thrilled whenever I go to a conference and somebody has a way for us to save 10 to 30% on one of our fixed costs. Currently, the city code does not require recycling service. Most multifamily and commercial properties have been built with only the one required dumpster location. Concept of the plan, and that's really what I'm bringing you today. Not details, I'm bringing you a concept. It's based on best practices. Several cities and counties in Florida have done this. The one I think we closest model is the city of San Diego in California, who's about 5 or 6 years into their process. They've just finished the last phase last year. It's been very successful there. If it wasn't, I would be tweaking it more. City staff is proposing code amendments to implement a commercial and multifamily recycling program. Two elements to that. First, change to Chapter 58, the Land Development Code, to require recycling and garbage container sites be built on new properties, or substantial enlargement and substantial deviation. And did I do okay, Dean? Mm-hmm. All right. And sometimes in a medium-sized office building, that's as simple as a double-wide enclosure instead of a single. And in a garden apartment community, that might be that would normally have, say, 5 dumpster locations, that might be 2 dedicated to recycling, 3 dedicated to garbage, no extra expense at all in that instance. The loading dock just needs to be designed slightly differently, and I have an example of that. But that would be the first step, if you will. Then Chapter 28, the Solid Waste Code, would be amended to requiring that people submit and implement a 1-page recycle plan. Now, I realize a couple of our largest buildings may slip onto the first line or 2 of the second page, but by and large, it's a 1-page plan, and I have a sample to show you. We propose a phased approach for properties to implement recycling, that's existing properties. Customers can contract with any permitted recycling firm. There are 29 registered in Orange County. The city can also provide the service. Florida, I don't know if it's Florida law or other, but a company or a private entity can't be compelled by a city to enter into a contract. So the city is that underlying safety net, if you will. If a property owner wants to have recycling at their property today and can't strike a deal with a private firm, enter into a contract, the city can provide it. And we want to, we love it. Stakeholder outreach. When I talked at a cabinet meeting about this, the mayor very much wanted me to present it to y'all, and then he wanted to know how fast we could do it, if you liked it. I've asked for 6 months of stakeholder outreach because what we have is a concept. I want to talk to developers, planners, architects, real estate groups, property management groups. I want to present the concept, and I want their input. We need to develop the details of the ordinance change based on their input. Week before last, I talked for the very first group to the City of Orlando Developers Forum. It's a group that meets here periodically about every 2 or 3 months. Former Commissioner Don Ammerman of Comtech Properties asked me when I gave him this presentation, or one similar to this, he said, Mike, I have a 70,000 square foot building and a 40,000 square foot building on the same lot. Is that a 110,000 square foot building, or is it a 70 and a 40? That's an example of input and questions we want to develop in the outreach process. My answer was real simple. What would he prefer? Because we don't have a preference yet. I'll ask that same question of many, many stakeholder groups. Implementation. The city will provide assistance and training. We're going to select a sustainability project manager to assist customers and review the plans submitted to us. We've had an intern doing that lately, and Joe, if you'd stand up for a second. Joe England has been doing it. We've already reached out and received plans from a lot of folks. I'll show you 1 or 2 today. Each property must submit a recycling service plan to be approved by us. They get to choose the methods and locations that work best for their property. Simple as that. The approved plan must be implemented. The customers can use the city or a private recycling service. Tough to read, but that's the 29 registered recycling firms. Now, a couple of them are like metal only or paper only, but more than half of them are multi-purpose recyclers. So there's plenty of choices out there for business owners and managers. Although it's split into 2 pieces, this is really 1 page. This is a plan submitted by City Hall. Doris Wasson of Owens submitted this. The City Hall is a 268,000 square foot administrative building. It has 600 employees working in the building and a small restaurant on the ground floor. We write down whose waste we receive, who provides waste services, and then the types of containers. City Hall does a 4-yard dumpster at the loading dock. It happens to have wheels. You'll get to see it in a second. It's picked up 3 times a week, and a cardboard recycling dumpster. This building was built without a specific design for recycling. Yet, they've been doing it here for years. Then an explanation of how it works, and you all know from your own offices. A couple of nights a week, the cleaning crew, when they're picking up the garbage, pick up the recycling, put it in the recycle dumpster. That's as complicated as we're looking for. This is a big building with an unusual circumstance. Phasing it in. New construction. New construction projects, and projects making substantial improvements will be required to include both garbage and recycling facilities to get a certificate of occupancy. Didn't say 2 dumpster enclosures, just said a facility. A small building, it could be another set of carts. It could be a second dumpster enclosure. It could be splitting an existing one. I'll show you some examples with some pictures in a minute. This would apply to permits pulled within 6 months, pulled 6 months after the ordinance effective date. So once the ordinance has been enacted, this requirement wouldn't be official until 6 months after. We're attempting to not interfere with projects that are already in the pipeline, et cetera. New construction, the Orlando Police Headquarters. The picture on the left, we had to open it so that it was more than just a couple of pretty gates. And then the picture on the right is looking at the side. So they have an 8-yard dumpster for garbage going twice a week and a large 8-yard recycle dumpster that is dumped once a week. They're looking at around a 30% diversion from their office. They're just now getting bins out and cans for the various cubicles and offices to implement that. This one was built with that double enclosure. So this is what one would look like, a building about that size after built more than 6 months after the ordinance takes effect. How about large properties in phase 2? Multifamily developments of more than 250 units. There are about 80 of those. Commercial buildings over 200,000 square foot, so City Hall would be in that group. There are about 100 of those. They submit and implement a recycling plan within 12 months of the ordinance effective date. So City Hall's ahead of the curve, like usual. Here's the loading dock at City Hall. Those big, beautiful blue things are compactors, one for us, one for C&L. The one in the middle is an open construction container for miscellaneous waste. It doesn't have to go to the Class 1 landfill. In the front of the picture, you see a bright, shiny teal or Miami Dolphin green, for those that are inclined to notice the color difference. There's a pair of them, and they're on wheels, and then at the rail above it, you notice has a chain. We can remove the top chain, and they dump the cart with our recycling in it into one of those 2 dumpsters. One's us, one's C&L. Because they're on wheels, we wheel them out of there to the street and then dump them. Great, simple solution. Didn't take up any loading dock space. That's sort of a dead area that's not intended for anything else. It's just kind of some open space. All we had to do was put dumpsters on wheels, a common thing in our business, and we had to build a little tiny ramp made out of steel that goes on the edge. Medium-sized properties, multifamily developments from 75 to 249 units. There are about 100 of those in the city. And then commercial buildings between 100 and 199,000 square feet. And there are about 200 of those. Once again, submit and implement a plan within 24 months, 2 years. Got a couple of examples right here. These are both multifamily. The one on the right is Park Lake Towers, which I think is right on 50, right around Park Lake. That is a place inside their parking structure, which is below ground. They fill the carts with recycling. I think that's a resident direct drop-off. I think they just know where it is. That's where they put their recycling. So you carry it in a little bag or a box or a basket or whatever. Put them in that. And then staff puts them out where our residential route can pick them up. I think it's the route that's on its way to Baldwin Park, to be honest with you. On the right, some more garbage carts inside the Metropolitan, which is a converted hotel right across from Eola Park. The old Harley, I believe, was the name. The Metropolitan still has maid closets on the floors. So they have one garbage cart, one recycle cart in each of the maid closets. The residents there put their garbage and recycling in the proper cart. They have a valet or porter service, is another name for it, that wheels those out every evening down to the garage where the recycling is put in, the recycling carts are put there. They do some quality control, make sure there are a few things in it that don't belong there, remove those so to help improve the quality of the recycling, and then the garbage is taken to the waste management compactor they've had for years. I don't know if you know that site very well. It makes, if you wanted to go to the dictionary of a tight residential site, this would be the picture right next to it. The fourth phase is all other commercial and multifamily properties. 2 more years later, or a total of 48 months or 4 years afterwards. That will look a little bit like a Black Friday sale when Walmart opens the doors, but we'll staff up so that we can accomplish that. And that could be, and that's everything. The previous two buildings were both mid-sized buildings, but this actually would be, oh, I have a sample, I forgot. The one on the left, solid waste and stormwater, have adjacent office buildings. It's right at 7,500 square foot. And we put 4, you can't see one of them, recycle carts out. That is a safety zone in front of our air conditioning units. We put them out there Tuesday night. They're picked up Wednesday when we pick up the adjacent residential area. They then go back inside. I did speak to them on why this was out afternoon. But then they go back inside the respective buildings and you fill them up. The one on the right is a mixed retail. There's a Jimmy John's and, from what I'm told, a very tasty Thai restaurant at 2323 South Orange Avenue. I think also a phone store. So it's a 7,100 square foot facility built before a requirement. So that is a single dumpster enclosure. On the left is a waste management recycle dumpster. On the right, the city garbage dumpster, both 4-yard castered on wheels. They're around a 50% recycler. Simple as that. This is one of the few times where it costs more to do that. Dumpsters on casters are a little more expensive than ones that sit on their own. But the savings for the lack of disposal for the recycling washes it out. That's why I say between 10 and 30. The police department would save around 30 because it's built where they can have flat boxes that are less expensive. This one is more on the 10% savings end. Multifamily and commercial recycling will have a huge impact on our diversion rate. There are nearly twice as much commercial and multifamily garbage tonnage collected in the city limits than there is residential. So if we can make a big dent there, then we can make a big dent in the total amount recycled. Also affects besides the landfill, which I've mentioned, there's also the reduction in raw materials because of their reuse. There's cost savings. Increased recycling will decrease garbage collection costs, resulting in a reduction in the total waste bill. Whether they write 1 check or 2 checks, the total of the checks is still smaller. Probably as a promotional item, we should get a Greenworks calculator and pass it out. Recycling can typically, at an office, reduce 50% what could be thrown away. Recycling materials can result in a 10 to 30% total waste bill reduction. And we don't want to ignore the economic opportunities. Growing waste diversion programs such as this can spawn new businesses, create jobs, and strengthen our local economy.
Mike, can you give us an example of what a typical bill for pickup of recycling versus garbage in the same tonnage or weight would be?
I think so. Hopefully we'll do a little bit better at this than the last time you asked me to open up a composter and I couldn't get the lid off. Can you all read that?
A little bit.
Ooh. Okay, so that's just like a view. Okay, zoom to selection. Oops. No, it's a little
That's
bit
good
too
like
much.
that.
Oh, wait, custom. There we go. How about now?
It's great.
Okay, this is a typical modest-sized office building that produces 16 cubic yards of waste. Without garbage, their bill would be for that 8-yard twice a week would be $496.94 a month. Very modest recycling initiative. Not all participation, not very aggressively marketed within the building, but 25% recycling can save $61 a month or 12%. Single stream recycling using a 50%, which is very doable in an office. In my office alone, I am probably 60 or 70% recycling, and except for bringing a sandwich in, not much garbage at all. And they can save $128 a month with a 50-50 split or a 26% reduction. Compactor works rather similarly. 15% recycling can result in a 10% compactor savings. "30% recycling, which is around what we do here at City Hall, will result in $374 a month, and that is our City Hall numbers. A 22% savings. A bigger business, the savings could be even larger in terms of dollar values. This is one that produces 24 cubic yards, so a little bit bigger office building. Or a modest garden apartment, three 8-yard dumpsters.
Commissioner Sheehan.
Is that the actual savings to the business, Mike, or is that is that a savings to us as our, is that an actual savings to that business?
Actual savings to the business,
Wow.
yes.
Okay, because, sometimes they say, well, city, you're saving money, but you're not passing on the benefit to us. So this is an actual cost benefit to the business.
This is one of the few things I'll bring to y'all that doesn't really save city staff for
Right,
the fund
okay.
money.
Yeah.
The truck's the same price, the driver's the same price. We pass all the savings on to the customer.
Great. Okay.
It's
Thank you.
just less expensive because when we take it to the sorting center, they don't make us pay to give it to them. They'll sort it and sell it, keep the revenue, which can be very cyclical. So it could be very little, but they go through all the sorting part. And single stream recycling is really what makes this work.
Commissioner Hill.
This is a question for Mike, and I know we can ask this later. I would like to ask Chris Castro, from an environmental standpoint, how does this affect, these savings affect, not savings, but this actual ordinance?
Well, as Mike was mentioning, in our Greenworks plan, we have a goal by 2040 to try to get to a zero landfill diversion rate, which is a goal that many cities around the country are trying to achieve. By increasing recycling in commercial and multifamily, we could substantially help to get to that goal. And then when you add on to the commercial food waste program that we have going on and the residential composters, we're starting to divert other streams, such as the organics, away from diverting into the landfill. So this would substantially increase our ability to achieve the zero waste goals for Greenworks and do the right thing at the end of the day in terms of really taking these commodities, these resources that could be repurposed and could be recreated into other materials.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks.
Thanks, Chris. The next steps. In the off chance anybody's watching me on television, please invite the city staff.
Chef Wiener's listening very
There
intently
we go.
over there.
Please
It's
invite.
an A1 above the fold article.
There we go. Oh, I
With
like
color
being.
photo, I think.
I'm not sure I always like being above the fold, but this would be a good one. We would like folks to invite city staff to your firm to discuss recycling. We'd like to hear their suggestions. So individual businesses, wonderful. Associations, wonderful. Now we're reaching out, we're scheduling things with folks. Right now I'm on the agenda for a couple things Commissioner Ortiz has forwarded to me for opportunities in some business groups. Chapter 58 will be going through the Land Development Code review process, which includes a staff review at something called the Technical Review Committee. Then the Municipal Planning Board review. I think that's scheduled for June or July. Council approval of the ordinance change in the fall. We would like to bring you both at the same time, so there is a structured process to Chapter 58 changes. We'd like to get all the way up to the council agenda, one, and then bring that plus Chapter 28, where we have the changes to that part of the code that would incorporate the input from stakeholders. We'd have a draft ordinance change and then bring it to council, most likely in the fall. I really do want to use that 6-month period starting at the end of last month to really get good input from businesses. It was one of the things that made San Diego successful was they tweaked the requirements so that it hemmed in individual business less than the original thoughts were. They know their properties, they know their processes, they know their business much better. We have a good knowledge about the recycling side and how we can pick it up. And we'd like to try a lot of different things. I will share with you that in the 19 years I've been at Solid Waste, we have not found a business that was committed to recycle, that would have an open mind, that was not successful in recycling. We've had a few that didn't want to separate things. you know, that type of thing. They didn't want to work hard enough to educate their residents or their tenants on giving us clean recycling, but I've never found a time, I found some that didn't want to put the carts or the dumpster in a particular part of the parking lot, things like that, aesthetic issues, but I've never found anybody that we couldn't find a solution for. We'd like folks to review your property's recycling and contact us to develop and implement a plan right now. You don't have to wait till you get to your threshold. Start recycling and start savings. And then, of course, we'd like folks to contact us with questions or express interest at Solid Waste Customer Service. Melody's answering folks that wrote us this weekend, and, or myself directly.
Mike, one good area to start, I think, might be on Main Street. Get with Pauline, and maybe we could have a Main Street challenge to see who in the next 12 months or whatever period you want to pick could get the highest percentage of their businesses involved in this. Or I'm sure that they can probably be more creative than I can be right this second, but I just think our Main Streets might be a perfect place to get a little challenge going between the different Main Streets.
Excellent.
And emphasizing the cost savings is really good too, because we all want to be green, but business people want to talk about the bottom line in addition to being green. Commissioner Sheehan and Commissioner Stewart.
Yeah, Mike, I remember when we were first talking about implementing some of these programs, and the Waverly had a program that they had done, and it was basically use the same trash chute, but put blue recycling, put the recycling in blue bags and put the regular trash in other bags, and then they were supposed to separate it out. Well, the problem was that people ran out of trash bags and they just started using the blue bags, and you had a lot of contamination in those recycle loads, which became a problem, and then they stopped the program. Well, you went back in and then had the program where the residents actually had to take it down to the dumpster, and you've had a lot more success with that, right?
We have.
Okay, so what I'm saying is I think we need to give them some guidance, because somebody might come up with a program similar to what the Waverly tried to do, and this was like, gosh, I want to say this when the Waverly's been open for like 15 years. They tried to do it, but they did it in a way that wasn't successful. So if we can kind of say, hey, you know, this didn't work, but if you have but I think we're going to have a lot more success if the residents actually have to take it to a location themselves, rather than rely on anybody else, or relying upon the residents to do the right thing. Because again, if they run out of trash bags, if that blue bag is around, or if there's some color code, they might get lazy and not do it right.
Yeah, I don't want to lay, of course, the demise of the Blue Bag program entirely on the Waverly apartments and condominiums, but that was in the
Well, that's just an example of my
but
district.
you're right,
yeah.
that was a very typical behavior
Uh-huh.
of not being able to do that, and it's a system that worked rather well. It's not quite as good as source separating single stream recycling, which is what we very much encourage today. But there are ways besides individual residents doing it. Some more upper end communities or businesses have their cleaning staff do it. That's what happens here. Or, you know, our cleaning staff every couple of nights, Tuesday and Friday, I think, make a second trip through and pick up the recycling bins by each one of your desks and take those down. The Metropolitan, that valet service, Commissioner Hill's going to come out and look at it. It's a nice add-on for the company, for the residents, to take those carts down, and it's really helped them maintain their property. There are quite a few garden apartments where either staff or another valet or porter company pick up the garbage and recycling, so they might need a bag for one or a bin for one, along with garbage bags. You set them outside your door in the evening when the maintenance crew first shows up, when it's too early to knock on the door and fix your air conditioner. They will come and pick all the waste up. So those are common methods to do it. So there's a lot of different varieties, and we want to bring everything we know of to the table, including potential partnerships. And many of those porter companies are often rather small businesses. There was a condo in the far southwest in Commissioner Ings's district that, and I'm not going to be able to think of the name, Commissioner, I'm sorry, but they had a porter service for 4 or 5 years. 2 young men, just on their own, approached them, and they did it reliably for years and years. And 2 young college-age gents, if I remember correctly.
Do you have more success if it's not like in a closed bag where you can actually see like in an open bin, so that they can kind of check it out while they're, you know, because I think that was part of the issue, was that because with closed up you really couldn't check it out before, but with like at City Hall we have an open bin. The folks that are dumping it can tell if somebody put the wrong thing in there and take it out.
one of the advantages of valet or porter service
Yeah.
is that they'll
Yeah.
open those, but you're exactly
sorted.
right. You need
Yeah.
to be able to see what it is. Plus,
Right.
plastic bags, film plastic is one of the two major contaminants
Yeah.
that we often make a mistake in including into the stream. They tangle up the wheels of the sorting center right at the very beginning of the process. It just puts the brakes on it like you can't imagine. Styrofoam being the other one, since I mentioned there are two. Although there are some new options for styrofoam that we're hopeful will come to fruition in the near future.
Commissioner Stewart?
Thank you, Mike, and thank you for the recap. I'm a little bit confused on two issues. The first is that on multifamily, commercial's pretty easy. Commercial, you schedule, and you fit at whatever the schedule is. If it's once a week, twice a week, 3 times a week. I know the Christian Service Center, we're picking up 4 times a week. So anytime I can get a chance to save, that would be a big deal to us. Multifamily, I think I'm okay with that. Are we doing the same type of scheduling as we do with commercial, or is that scheduled around the residential pickup?
As long as they're not in, there are a few multifamilies, very small townhouses, a few of the oldest of apartments that are too small to have a small dumpster. They do it with carts instead of a dumpster. So that's a little bit different, but they could have, a 12-unit place could have 10 carts of garbage and 2 recycles instead of 12 of each. But otherwise, you're exactly on point, Commissioner. There's an apartment community that I met with week before last off of Conway Road that has 5 8-yard garbage dumpsters. They are interested in converting 2 of those to recycling. So they'd still have 5, they'd all be 8 yards. The garbage would go in the blue ones, recycling in the teal ones. The teal ones are about half the price. Similarly, in a smaller place that doesn't have 5 containers, what you might go to from is an 8-yard picked up twice to a 4-yard picked up twice, like that restaurant with the Jimmy John's. But without recycling, that would be 1 large 8-yard picked up several times a week. Now the recycle dumpster takes a good piece of the waste, and the smaller garbage dumpster, which is less expensive than the 8-yard was, is picked up the exact number of times that it's needed is our goal.
I guess in the commercial side where you're picking up the dumpsters, that's relatively easy to schedule. I've got a suggestion that I'd like to introduce to the council. But the other question is when you're picking up under a regular cart at a multifamily, is that picked up as a commercial or is that picked up as part of the residential? In other words, at that townhome or, 8 or 12 apartment complex, is that part of the residential? And if it is, how is that impacted by the regular pickup for recycling at the same time?
We might use a residential truck to pick it up just because residential trucks are well positioned to pick up carts.
Yeah, but is it a special trip for that, or is it part of the same cycle?
No, we try to pick them up when we're in the same neighborhood. So there's a 10-unit apartment up near Lake Highland we pick up on Mondays and Thursdays, the same time we pick up the garbage at the nearby single-family
So
homes.
same truck and the same time, and you're
Same
charged
truck.
independently?
They're charged, those are billed individually. Our ordinance allows for a 1-bedroom apartment sharing a container, or a series of containers in this case, to pay a rate a little smaller than a single-family home. A 2-bedroom apartment, a tiny bit smaller than a single-family home. Condominiums are billed either management, the association pays, which case the savings is easy, or if they're individually billed, it's linked to the individual rate.
Is there anything we can do with on-demand pickup? Good example is that as you start this process, if a particular pickup on a recycling is $60 to pick up one, they may not need that every week and they're paying for it every week. Is there a way to do on-demand? I know that there's some software out called Recollect, which allows you to do on-demand for residential, and I think they've got a section that does on-demand for recycling as well. Is there a way to ease into this in terms of an on-demand, or allow on-demand as part of what we're doing?
We today offer on-demand, if you will, in the commercial side for dumpsters, including recycling. We call it, our lingo is an extra dump. It's usually intended to be an extra, not an as-needed basis. Now, compactors are typically pulled or taken away to be emptied, either on a regular schedule, worked out with the customer, on call. I know that's tough, but for me, the one at City Hall is on call. It generally runs around 12, 14 days, but they schedule it when they need it. Coming
So
back
did
to,
they schedule it by doing what? By calling and
Yes.
saying, please come pick it up?
yep,
Is there a way to be able to have them schedule electronically? I mean, I think this Recollect
Companies
thing
like-
does it for regular trash and some
Yep.
others, and something like that may be the best thing we can move forward on.
big part of the Digital City Hall initiative, and a company like Recollect does that for large item pickups for residents, large item pickups for apartment communities. Somebody moves out, puts a chest of drawers in the dumpster enclosure, they can schedule a special pickup for that when the maintenance guys notice it before our office is open, type of thing. If we have a a commercial recycler who doesn't use our smallest, we would keep downsizing them to keep them on a regular schedule. I know that recycling properly cleaned doesn't have vector and vermin issues the way, odor and bugs and vermin. I don't know of another. But they don't have those issues the way garbage, should not have those issues the way garbage does, but regular service is still pretty important. So what we would traditionally try to do is to downsize them to the proper number so that even if it's one cart once a week, we will make fewer mistakes if we have a regular schedule.
Yeah. I guess this on-demand thing is just really kind of interesting to me because some type of software connection not only provides the ability to get the information to you right away, but it also provides a trail, a paperwork trail. I know we get frustrated if we need additional pickup.
Mm-hmm.
We call and then somebody's called, we don't know when you're going to be there. They give us kind of a block window. It seems that with some new software, part of the digital city hall,
Yes.
that could be tracked pretty easily. We could see when somebody's going to be there. In our case, our property is closed in the evening, so somebody has to kind of have access to the keys, and maybe there's some things that we can do to work out. And I'm just looking at it from our perspective, because we're paying $19,000 a year for trash pickup. And we're kind of one of the normal ones. So I'm just trying to figure out how we can save, and are there other ways to save in terms of on-demand and those kind of things?
Yes, very supportive of those ideas, because if it lets our customers receive the service they want, that's very much in our interest.
Yeah, because this idea of having an on-demand pickup of $80 or picking up every week at $64 is a scheduling function that helps you out, but they may not need it for a while.
I'm not
Right.
sure that it's as well known either, if I can run a small commercial here, if you will, that when folks move in and move out of their homes, they often create a tremendous amount of cardboard. And if they'll let us know that I'm moving into my new house in Ardsley Manor at a certain address this weekend, then on Tuesday, we will make a point of coming by and picking up that cardboard in a recycle truck. I have some customers in the far southeast that are where their HOAs are very engaged. So Maria Esham, the folks at Nona Crest let us know, Village Walk, that we've got a couple of new customers that have moved in. And then we can tell them in that case, Wednesday, and we'll pick up, a front yard full of cardboard boxes on Wednesday and make sure it gets recycled. So I hope our customers have watched and noticed that we're happy to do that.
Thank you, and great job, as always.
Thank you.
Commissioner Hill?
Yes, Mayor, I just personally want to thank Joe, the intern, for all your diligence in the outreach and gathering the information. And if you were the one that was, that's what Mike stated, you did an amazing job, and thank you for assisting us find best practices for this new program of commercial and multi-family recycling, so thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Joe. And all of the pictures are all Joe, trust me. You guys would never have pictures without help. Not from me. So just in case you're thinking about having me come a lot, no pictures if I don't have help.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Great presentation.
Thank you all very much.
Thanks, Mike. See you in 2 weeks, Mike.
All right, I guess that concludes our workshop for today.